1. The Foundations of Empire. A New Dawn, 1480-1600. The rise of the British Empire began in a fragmented England seeking relevance on the global stage. During the late 15th century, England was overshadowed by the maritime dominance of Spain and Portugal. However, the desire to bypass the Mediterranean trade routes, controlled by Italian city-states, pushed England to explore alternative paths. The Tudor initiatives under the Tudor monarchy, England, began fostering its maritime ambitions. John Cabot's expeditions in 1497 and 1498 represented early attempts to find a northern route to Asia. Though these voyages did not yield tangible rewards, they marked England's initial forays into transatlantic exploration. Henry Vake's creation of the Royal Navy in the early 16th century further positioned England for maritime expansion. The first seeds of colonization by the late 16th century. Armada in 1588, England gained confidence in its naval supremacy. The subsequent efforts to establish colonies, such as Sir Humphrey Gilbert's attempts in Newfoundland and Sir Walter Raleigh's ill-fated Roanoke colony, underscored the challenges of early colonization. Despite failures, these ventures paved the way for Jamestown's founding in 1607, marking the beginning of the British colonial footprint. 2. Building the Empire, Trade, Conquest and Expansion, 1600-1750. During the 17th century, trade became the lifeblood of the British Empire. This period saw the rise of powerful trading companies, military campaigns, and the establishment of permanent settlements across continents. The role of the British East India Company, founded in 1600, the British East India Company, IEC, became instrumental in Britain's expansion into Asia. Originally focused on trade in spices, the IEC soon diversified into textiles and other commodities. By leveraging alliances with local rulers and maintaining a private army, the company gradually became a political entity, influencing vast regions of India. The transatlantic slave trade, Britain's expansion into the Americas and the Caribbean, was closely tied to the transatlantic slave trade. Between the 17th and 19th centuries, millions of Africans were forcibly transported to British colonies, where they labored in sugar, tobacco, and cotton plantations. The economic benefits of this exploitative system fueled Britain's industrial growth, but the human cost left an indelible scar on history. Settlement and expansion, the Pilgrim Fathers' journey on the Mayflower in 1620, and the subsequent establishment of colonies like Massachusetts Bay, reflected the broader trend of English migration to the Americas. Meanwhile, the acquisition of Caribbean islands, such as Barbados and Jamaica, positioned Britain as a major player in the lucrative sugar trade. 3. Consolidation and conflict. The Empire in Crisis, 1750-1815. The late 18th century was a period of both triumph and turmoil for the British Empire. As it expanded its reach, internal and external challenges emerged. The 7 Years' War, 1756-1763, was a global conflict that cemented Britain's position as a dominant power. Victories over France resulted in the acquisition of Canada and significant territories in India. However, the war's high costs led to increased taxation in the American colonies, setting the stage for revolution. The American Revolution, the loss of the 13 colonies in the American War of Independence, 1775-1783, marked a significant blow to the empire. Despite this setback, Britain retained its dominance in the Caribbean and began focusing on other regions, such as Australia and Africa, for expansion. India and the rise of British power in India. The British East India Company took advantage of the declining Mughal Empire to expand its influence. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the subsequent establishment of British control in Bengal were pivotal moments in the empire's rise in Asia. The Industrial Revolution and the Imperial Century, 1000, 1815, 1000, 1914. The 19th century was a period of unprecedented growth for the British Empire, fueled by the Industrial Revolution and a spirit of imperialism. Technological advancements. The Industrial Revolution transformed Britain into the workshop of the world. Innovations such as the steam engine and advancements in transportation enabled the empire to exploit its colonies more effectively. Railways, telegraphs, and steamships connected distant territories, facilitating trade and governance. The Victorian Empire under Queen Victoria, Britain reached the zenith of its imperial power. By 1901, the empire controlled nearly a quarter of the world's landmass and population. The establishment of the Suez Canal in 1869 further solidified Britain's control over global trade routes, social and cultural impact. The British Empire profoundly influenced the societies it governed. English became a global lingua franca, and British institutions, such as parliamentary democracy and common law, were introduced in many colonies. However, these changes often came at the cost of eroding indigenous cultures and traditions. 5. Resistance and decolonization. The winds of change 1914-1960. The 20th century witnessed the decline of the British Empire as nationalist movements gained momentum, and global conflicts strained Britain's resources. World wars in the empire, both World War I and World War II, placed enormous demands on the empire. Colonies contributed troops and resources, but the wars weakened Britain's economy and global standing. Nationalist movements in India, leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, spearheaded the struggle for independence. The Quit India movement and the partition of 1947 marked a turning point in the empire's history. Similar movements in Africa, the Caribbean, and Southeast Asia led to a wave of decolonization during the mid-20th century. The end of empire. By the 1960s, the British Empire had largely dissolved. The handover of Hong Kong to China in 1997 marked the symbolic end of British colonial rule. However, the Commonwealth of Nations, established in 1931, preserved economic and cultural ties between Britain and its former colonies. 6. The legacy of empire. A mixed inheritance. The British Empire's legacy is complex and multifaceted, encompassing both achievements and atrocities. Economic impact. While the empire facilitated global trade and industrialization, it also entrenched economic inequalities. Colonies were often exploited for their resources, leaving them underdeveloped at the time of independence. Cultural exchange. The spread of the English language, British literature, and Western education systems is a testament to the empire's cultural influence. However, these contributions came alongside the suppression of local languages and traditions. Debates on imperialism and contemporary discussions. The British Empire is both celebrated and criticized. Proponents argue that it brought modernization and infrastructure to many regions, while critics highlight the exploitation, racism, and violence inherent in colonial rule. 7. Echoes of empire in the modern world today. The legacy of the British Empire continues to shape global geopolitics and culture. The Commonwealth, with 56 member states, remains a platform for cooperation and dialogue. Former colonies like India, Canada, and Australia have emerged as significant global players, often retaining ties to Britain through shared legal systems and cultural heritage.